state regime media, which calls itself Fox News, has been panicking since the United States Supreme Court struck down Donald Trump's tariffs against the world. Each host on state regime media behaving more ridiculous and pathetic than the next. They're bringing on people like Trump's trade representative, Jamieson Greer, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. They are bringing on people like Stephen Miller. And it's a combination of like attacking the Supreme Court and calling them illegitimate and under the influence of foreign powers, but then also saying, actually, IEEPA, the unlawful declaration that we made to do tariffs against the world, has been great. Look how powerful we are. Stephen Miller says, we've brought inflation down to 1.4%. No, you didn't. Actually, the PCE is rising past 3%. I think you're confusing the fourth quarter GDP number, which was 1.4%, with inflation. You see, our GDP is going down and inflation is going up, Stephen Miller. And then you had people like Jesse Waters on state regime media saying, how could Donald Trump be a dictator when the United States Supreme Court ruled against him? And Donald Trump is following the order of the Supreme Court. Actually, Donald Trump's not following the orders of the Supreme Court. He held a deranged press conference shortly after the Supreme Court struck down his tariffs against the world and said that he's going to make life so painful for Americans. He got rid of the de minimis tariff exemption. So people who are purchasing goods of $800 or less are going to now suffer tariffs right now. Then Donald Trump did a unilateral 150-day 10% tariff against the world in order to try to make the American people suffer even more. And then Donald Trump says he's going to potentially do embargoes against other countries if they want to go back on the fake trade deals that Donald Trump announced on social media. So actually, Jesse Water and state regime propagandists, Donald Trump's not following this Supreme Court ruling. He held one of the most deranged press conferences ever. But, this is an evidence-based, fact-based network here at MeidasTouch. So let me bring out the receipts one by one for you, shall we? First, let's bring in Jamieson Greer. He's the U.S. Trade Representative. He was speaking with Bret Baier, and Baier says, do you regret using IEEPA, the statute from 1977 that gave you this emergency authority to do tariffs against the world? What do you regret that? And Jamieson's like, no, we did the right move there. You did the right move by doing an unlawful tariff, and now you owe refunds totaling about $175 billion at least, which, by the way, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent goes, good luck trying to get that. Why would we give it back to you? It's got like the bad guys, like the villains in every superhero movie. My gosh. Here's what Jamieson Greer says. Let's play this clip.
Yeah, to that point, you mentioned IEEPA, that's the emergency effort. Do you regret using IEEPA if you had these other statutes already on the books and kind of ready to go?
No, not at all. And by the way, all of these options were presented to the president early on before he even started his second term. The reality is the president wanted to move quickly, he wanted to move flexibly, and most importantly, he was trying to respond to an emergency of our huge trade deficit we were left with under Biden. And so that's why he was using that. So it was an appropriate tool, was a necessary tool. Obviously, we disagree, along with three esteemed justices of the Supreme Court, on the result today. So we don't regret it. It helped us obtain tons of deals covering half of the world's population, opening up market access we haven't enjoyed for 30 years. And we have these agreements, and so we'll just use a different tool. Again, the tools may change, but the policy stays the same, and IEEPA was part of that.
Now going to Jesse Waters, he said, actually, the Democrats fell right into a trap. He said, we're heading into the midterms, and now Donald Trump gets to issue refunds right before the midterms with his name on it. And the American people are going to be so thankful that Trump's name is going to be on tariff rebate checks. Ha ha ha, Newsom. Ha ha ha, Democrats. You fell right into the trap. What are y'all talking about? First off, Donald Trump says he's not going to be giving refunds. He claimed he was giving tariff rebate checks, but that was a lie. Just like Doge dividend checks were a lie. And just like it's a lie when he says for healthcare, he's going to replace Obamacare and the Obamacare subsidies by giving a $2,000 check. That seems to be Donald Trump's MO. Rather than solve the problems, he just comes up with $2,000 checks and then never actually gives it because he's a total con artist and a total fraud. Watch Jesse Waters here, though, play this clip.
Democrats don't even know it yet, but they just walked into a pretty big trap. Newsom's saying Americans should get a tariff refund.
Donald Trump should return that money immediately. He has an obligation, $1,751 per family, but we're taxed by Donald Trump. He took hundreds of billions of dollars from working folks, from the ag community, from small businesses, for this vanity play, this illegal action. And he finally was held to account. The rule of law won out.
Tariff stimmy checks with Trump's name on it right before the midterms. I'm into it.
Then state regime media brings in the despicable individual, Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller goes, as cowardly as the Supreme Court ruling was, here's the good news. We're going to come up with ways to make the tariffs even harder on the American people. I mean, these people are pure evil, right? Here, play this clip.
But here's the good news, Laura. As cowardly, as horrendous as the Supreme Court ruling was, as poorly as it reflects on John Roberts' court and the continued torturing of our statutes and our Constitution, here's the good news. The court also affirmed the president has the authority under Section 301, Section 232, Section 122, Section 338, and many other provisions of federal law that the president can levy tariffs on foreign nations. So his program will not only be fully reconstituted, but it will be expanded. And one more point, Laura. The Supreme Court also affirmed that under IEPA, the president has authority to restrict, impede, deny, license, or even fully embargo any foreign trade. So the net result of all this is we're going to keep and grow the tariffs to bring back American manufacturing, which keeps prices low by incentivizing products to be made here in America. But it also means that President Trump has even more tools when it comes to dealing with foreign countries that undermine our security.
And that brings us to Greg Gutfeld. And Greg Gutfeld just basically starts cursing on air. He's like, for all of the people gloating, STFU, STFU, shut the F up, shut the F up. By the way, that's basically what Donald Trump was saying during his deranged press conference. Shut the F up, man. Shut the F up. It was really weird, his press conference. Here, play this clip.
And for the people that are gloating, they were probably the same people who backed the student loan bailout. You know, they could STFU. The Supreme Court pooped on that, but that didn't stop Biden, did it? Or how about the vaccine mandates? Supreme Court crapped on that too, but they still did it to the government employees. There's always a workaround, but shut up is what I'm saying.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to think about how easy it is to actually break into your luggage? Before I found Noble, I never did. I'd leave my suitcase with hotel staff, airline crews sitting in overhead bins, never really thinking twice. But the reality is, a simple ballpoint pen can pierce most luggage zippers in seconds. Someone can open up your bag, take what they want, zip it back up, and you'd never know. That's your passport, your laptop, your meds, gone before you even land. Now I'm obsessed with my Noble, because Noble completely removes the zipper. It's a zipperless latch lock suitcase that closes like a safe. The two halves meet with a tight seal. You actually hear and feel the click when it locks. So no more stressing when your bag's out of sight. And if you're like me, packing your best clothes for a trip, losing that wardrobe could be devastating. But Noble didn't just make the safest luggage, they fixed everything annoying about travel too. Built-in charging port, no more crouching next to an outlet at 5%, front laptop pocket makes TSA a breeze, no more panic unpacking while the line stares at you, and my favorite, a flip-out cup holder built right into the suitcase. Total game changer when you're juggling coffee, water, and a boarding pass. Smooth 360-degree wheels make it effortless to roll through the airport, and don't just take my word for it. Over 500,000 suitcases sold. Highest rated luggage brand in the category on Trustpilot. Over 12,000 flight attendants and pilots swear by Noble. Even TSA agents say it helps prevent theft and tampering. Noble's all-in-one carry-on is the durable, safe, advanced luggage you've always dreamed about. Every suitcase comes with a 100-day money-back guarantee, free 3-day express shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Noble gives you real travel peace of mind, security, design, and convenience all in one. Head to Noble Travel for up to 46% off your entire order. That's nobltravel.com for up to 46% off. After you purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
This is where Jesse Waters then says, how could Trump be a dictator when the Supreme Court rules against him and he follows the order? Jesse, he says he's not following the order. We saw the press conference earlier yesterday where he says he's not following the orders. Here, play this clip.
I guess Trump's not a dictator anymore because the court ruled against him and he's going to do what they say. Carney in Canada, he doesn't have this issue. Ursula at the EU can hit us with tariffs and nothing stops her. Mexico can hit back fast. China can. They dump and tariff all day long. But the United States has to just sit there and take it? The president can't hit back fast? He has to guess which law to use. And if he retaliates too hard against Vietnam or Switzerland, these countries can hold firm because the court might strike them down.
Then Jesse Waters says, but these tariffs have been so amazing. That's how we got Greenland. That's how we got the Panama Canal. We did this all. We settled 8 wars with the tariffs. He didn't do any of those things. What are you talking about? He didn't settle 8 wars. The tariffs, you know what the tariffs have done, Jesse? If we want to have an honest conversation about what the tariffs has done, it caused the rest of the world to enter trade deals with each other and cut out the United States. You've got Canada linking a trans-Pacific partnership with a transatlantic partnership right now, completely outmaneuvering the United States. We've got the BRICS bloc growing in power. You've got the European Union and making deals with India, actual deals. You've got Carney making deals and strategic partnerships with China. I mean, that's what you actually have going on here. But here, let's play this clip.
Who has to wait and then go and do an investigation and then come back? This is what we need now. Not only this, he's now gotten the Panama Canal back from tariffs. He's brought Greenland back into our orbit, and he's gotten NATO funding boosted from tariffs. Not to mention the fact that wars have been settled because of tariffs. This is what's going to happen. He's just going to reinstitute the same posture under a different code, and they're going to go back to where they were. But the silver lining is, you're right. This time, when you do an investigation, you might be able to target strategic industries and do carve-outs like coffee or clothing, non-national security related issues. And then you can still have a tariff regime that keeps in charge of economic national security. And we still have the justices invited to the State of the Union.
Well, that is most important.
Barely.
I mean, Greg, the justice's job is to...
Then you had Democratic senator who's running for governor of Minnesota, Senator Klobuchar, was on state regime media. And here's how she described the situation to Bret Baier. It's actually nice to have someone speaking logically on state regime media. Let's play this clip.
They say this is a powerful tool that the president used to move countries to do different things. You say he needs to work with Congress to get it done.
Well, the Supreme Court has clearly ruled that he has to work with Congress, that Congress, as Justice Gorsuch pointed out a number of times in that oral argument, that Congress has the power to tax. And so, yes, he should work with Congress, but he also has to stop doing these things that are clearly illegal that then lead to complete chaos in the economy. And it's one of the reasons why people are so angry about what is going on right now. Because costs have been going up for people, housing costs. Continue, Brett. I didn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry. Do you think that people need to get refunds? There are some Democrats calling for refunds for the American people. You think they do?
So it is very clear. They made this retroactive. They didn't say, oh, it's just going forward. So there will be people There's a lot of importers in the U.S., that's the bulk of it, that have paid these tariffs. And I would think these small businesses that have sued, a Utah fishing apparel company, a toy store in Pennsylvania, they are going to be going before the International Court or some kind of body to get their money back. My hope is that that can go to individual consumers who ended up really paying for this because of the increased prices. But there will be major action on refunds. And, I don't run that White House, but I would hope they would be making that process go as smoothly as possible, because people will have a right to get their money back. There isn't a provision in the way the court did this, and the president did express his anger about that. And I don't know how they could have suddenly come up with the process themselves, where it says, hey, this is just going forward. It's not retroactive. I'm not sure they could do that under the law. The administration should have never used this IEPA statute. And I heard the ambassador say the president wanted to move quickly, and that was the goal. But you want to do things legally, or you're going to end up in a huge mess, which he has continued to have happen to him in various other realms throughout this administration.
Now back to Jesse Waters here. Jesse Waters says, I love refunds, actually. So where's my refund check from the Somalians? Let's play it.
But as long as we're playing along, I love the idea of a refund. Are we getting refund checks for the $9 billion the Somalis stole? Because when there's fraud on my credit card, American Express pays me back.
And then finally, they bring on Monica Crowley, who's like Donald Trump's ambassador of protocol, whatever the hell that means. She was previously a host on state regime media, right-wing propagandist. That gives you the ability to become an ambassador in the Trump regime or a secretary of defense in the Trump regime. And here she talks about how she goes, the tariffs have generated nearly $270 billion for the federal government. And this has caused the deficits to be lower, our national debt to be lower, and for there to be economic growth and job creation. We are in a jobs recession right now. Economic growth is stagnant. The national debt is increasing. Deficits are not lower. You're just making things up. As Leslie Marshall says, the U.S. federal budget deficit stood at approximately $1.7 to $1.8 trillion over the past 12 months as early as 2026. The deficit reflects that the government expenditure, $7 trillion, continues to significantly outpace revenue, $5.2 trillion. And now you owe a refund to people because you stole from them, right? Inherent in the court's order, Supreme Court's order, that the IEPA tariffs are unlawful is that you stole money by unlawfully charging people tariffs. You tax people illegally, which is obvious if you just read IEPA from 1977. It says, where a president declares that there is a national emergency, the president has the right to regulate imports and exports. Nowhere in IEPA does it say the word tariffs at all. So you have to declare a valid emergency, national emergency. And then it talks about regulating imports and exports. Regulation is not tariffs. That's not what it is. And the Supreme Court said that's not what it is. Anyway, here's what Crowley had to say. Let's play this clip.
It's ready to go. And Jesse, when you mentioned refund checks, over the last year, the calendar year 2025, President Trump's tariffs have generated nearly $270 billion for the federal government. And those returns are coming back to the American people. They're coming back in the form of lower deficits, an overall lower national debt as we proceed with this. And it's also generating tremendous economic growth. It's generating private job creation, and it's also generating a manufacturing boom. We started to see it in Trump's first term, and now we're seeing it on steroids.
All right, Monica.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. It's so utterly pathetic, isn't it? Well, hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.